I did a lesson about 4 years ago entitled Momentum is a Leader's Best Friend. Now, let me just talk to you about that for a moment. You and I never have it so good as we have it when momentum is on our side. It's the best friend any leader has ever had. In fact, I'll tell you what, when we don't have momentum, it's the biggest enemy that we have. A train going 55 miles an hour on a track can crash through a 5-foot concrete wall that is steel reinforced. That train can go through that wall at 55 miles an hour and not stop. That same train, if it is stopped on the track, if you put a 1-inch block in front of the driving wheel, can never even get going. A 1-inch block can stop a train from starting. A 5-foot concrete wall, steel reinforced, can't stop a train once it's moving. See, that's why I always tell leaders, it is never the size of your problem that is the problem. If you're stopped on the track and you have no momentum, can I tell you something? A 1-inch problem will cause you a major problem. Does this make sense? If you're stopped still, all I got to do is give you a 1-inch problem and you're in trouble. You can't even get started. But if you are going and you're clicking and you got what I call the big mo. If you got the big mo going for you, you can go 55 miles an hour and you can crash through a wall and you can look at your neighbor and say, did we hit something back there? Did you feel something? That's why your problem is never the problem. And the problem with the problem is we think the problem is the problem, so we focus on the problem when the problem isn't the problem at all. The problem never has been the problem. It's a lack of momentum that's the problem. So therefore, what you have to understand as a leader, is your responsibility more than life itself is to understand momentum and get it kicking in your organization. In fact, the number one problem in most organizations is low morale. My good friend Lyle Schaller taught me this. And low morale is a symptom, but not a problem. If there are morale problems, look at what is causing them. Go beneath the low morale. If you've got low morale in your organization, sit there and say, okay, why do we have it? Now, low morale could be, or lack of momentum could be a result of, it could be, first of all, a person. Isn't it true in your organization that you can have people that are what you call momentum breakers? Huh? Boy, you're thinking of them right now. Pictures begin to flash through your, isn't that right? You have momentum. Hey, is it not also true that in your organization you have momentum makers? The meeting's stalling a little bit and somebody says something and the meeting picks right up and you say, boy, thank you, you just got us rolling. Isn't that right? In fact, here's the way this works. Oh, this is so good. Get this, Charlie. It's not my notes, I just thought of it. There are 3 classes of people. There are momentum makers, momentum breakers, and momentum takers. Now let me show you something. Momentum makers should be the leaders. Momentum takers are just the average group out there. If you've got a group of 20, you've got 14 that are momentum takers. Do you know what I mean by that? What I'm saying is they'll get going if the momentum gets going. They'll take it. I mean, they'll if the train pulls out, they'll get on the train. Now, they won't get the train going. They won't stop the train, but they'll ride the train. Yeah. So you got to show them where the train is, get them on the train, and they'll take the ride. You got me? Okay. Now, what you got to do, though, as a leader is, the reason I'm doing this lesson is, you've got to understand what a momentum breaker is, and you've got to understand how to fix it. Because leaders, under their leadership, will always have breakers come in and try to stop the momentum. Remember this, motion causes friction. So therefore, when any organization starts moving, what happens is there are people that want to jump up to stop it. I want you to know some of the people that can help you the most also can hurt you the most. So it could be a person, or it could be an event. You can have an event that makes the momentum, or you could have an event that breaks it. Haven't you had meetings that you said, oh my goodness, I wish I'd never had that meeting? Huh? And if you haven't, you will. That's exactly right. Your time's come. Or it could be an issue. A lot of momentum breakers are issues, or it could be a leader. Now, this is where it gets sad. What really gets sad to me, and the reason I'm doing this lesson is because you're leaders, is I see a lot of leaders that are momentum breakers. In other words, they're messing it up. In fact, what I want to do is get them out of the leadership so we can go on. So that what we're doing here, that my whole goal for this lesson is a leader is to be responsible to get the ball rolling and keep the ball rolling. And what I'm going to do in this lesson is I'm going to tell you or share with you, hopefully help you, that's what I'm really trying to do, to understand momentum and what breaks it and what makes it so that you have a clear understanding. Here, remember I've taught you before, the reason people recognize opportunity after it's gone is they've seen it. You know, if we were as good before as we were after on opportunity, we'd be something. Isn't that right? We don't, but you know why we aren't good at opportunity coming? Because we don't have a picture of it. So because we don't have a picture of it, we've got to experience it going by. And then we say, oh, that was good. I should have done that. Well, it's the same way with momentum. Momentum is one of those things you can't get your hands around, and you can't list what it is. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to put some handles on it for you so you understand the difference between momentum makers and momentum breakers, and then you can begin to lead. Okay, here we go. Number one. Okay, here we go. Let me give you a momentum breaker, and then let me give you a momentum maker. A momentum breaker is double-mindedness. A momentum maker is focus. Do you see the difference between the two? Momentum, and beneath these breakers and makers, I'll always have a statement about developing and draining momentum. Momentum is developed by creating a clear and focused vision statement. Momentum is drained by shooting at nothing or attempting everything. If you're double-minded or you lack focus or lack the ability to hone in, I promise you, you will always break the momentum of your organization. You know why? It's a rabbit trail. You're starting to go forward. You see, oh, well, let's do this. Well, we can do this too. And you're not staying on the track, and you're breaking the momentum every time you look to the right, to the left, and do a U-turn in life. See it happen all the time. Now, you as a leader draw the target. Watch this. You get the target up and say, this is what we're going for as a group. The moment that you cast vision, focus, draw the target, which is a momentum maker, there are 5 responses that you'll get to that vision. There are what I call in any group, refreshers. Refreshers are people that when you lay out the vision and the dream, they inspire dreams and they invest in them, okay? Oh, and by the way, refreshers may not be people. They could be a book you read, a tape you listen to. Isn't that right? It refreshes your whole vision. The second group of people in your group are what I call refiners. Refiners will take your idea and they'll sharpen it and they'll begin to clarify your vision. And that is very healthy to have refiners in your group. You know what the refiners will do? The refiners will take your idea and make it a better idea. Then the third group you have, third type of person you have in every group is reflectors. They don't create energy, nor do they detract from your vision. You know what I call them? They're kind of what I call mirror people. They'll reflect back to you what you just put into it. And they're fine. They're fine people. They reflect on what you do, and the energy that you put in is the energy they give back. The fourth group is what I call the reducers. And they reduce your vision. Hang on. They'll reduce your vision to their comfort zone. Their goal when you put out the dream is to make that dream a lot smaller so it fits their comfort zone. Remember this, your goal as a leader is never to live in someone else's comfort zone. Your goal is to get them out of that comfort zone, because great accomplishments are never great in a person's comfort zone. They always are accomplishments that cause us to stretch and grow. The last group, you got refreshers, refiners, reflectors, reducers. The last one probably will start with an R too, don't you think? Rejectors. You'll have people that will never buy into the dream. In fact, you know what they do? They drain the dream. What their goal is to suck out every good idea that you ever had and reduce it to a fair idea. Now, what you always got to understand is you'll have them in every group, but unless you allow them to get to your inner being, they'll never drain your dream. You follow what I'm saying? Now, and you separate them from the rest, but that's another story. Okay. Momentum breakers are people that are double focused. Momentum makers are people that have focus. Okay. Number 2, momentum breaker. Let me give you another example of a momentum breaker. The past is a momentum breaker. A momentum maker is the future. All I'm asking you is, where are you living? Are you living yesterday? Are you living tomorrow? Momentum is developed by pointing to a better day ahead picture, and momentum is drained by looking back to what might have been. Jack Hayford, in his book, Taking Hold of Tomorrow, the quote is in your notes, said, "The past is a dead issue, and we can't gain any momentum moving toward tomorrow if we're dragging the past behind us." Now, I wrote down some of my very favorite thoughts to help you focus on the future, which is a momentum maker time. Number one, you reveal your potential by where you focus. If you're focusing on yesterday, can I tell you something? That was your best day. I never knew a person that focused on yesterday that had a better day tomorrow. So wherever you are now focused, that is exactly where your potential is. Number two, second thought I want to give you about the future is that the future comes fast. And that's so scary to me. Somebody said the trouble with the future is that it keeps getting closer and closer. Thought number three on the future, a double-minded focus depletes energy. If you want to get tired real quick, get double focused. Someone once said the most tiring exercise in the world is carrying yesterday on your back. Wow. Number four, until you believe in yourself, you won't believe in your future. I have never seen or met a person who lacked self-confidence in themselves that had great confidence in their future. There's a reflection about how I feel about myself compared to how I feel about tomorrow. Number five, oh, I love this one. Losers yearn for the past and get stuck in it. Winners learn from the past and let go of it. Alvin Dark, remember him? He used to coach, be manager for the Kansas City Athletics a long time ago. Alvin Dark's way before your time. Most of you, it's 20 years ago, 25 years ago. When I was in high school, college, Alvin Dark was manager. He made a great statement one time. He said, when he went out to take a pitcher out of the game because, you know, the latter innings, and he said, I never take a pitcher out. I'm always bringing a pitcher in. Now, there is tremendous philosophy in that statement. What he was basically saying is, and it's a great life management principle, and that is, you're not mad at the guy that you're taking out, you just have to deal with the next pitch. And so therefore, as a leader, you always have to be focused on what's going to happen, not what has happened. So when you remove somebody, you're not taking them out because they were so bad as much as you're putting somebody in to get the next batter out. It's a different philosophy that really helps us understand life itself, okay? Number six, it's better to construct the future than to varnish the past. Oh, in fact, this was so good, I don't want you to miss this. A lot of people spend all their time varnishing the past, picking up old experiences, old relationships, old successes, and old failures, and shining them over and over again. This is why Paul said, one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind, I press on toward the mark. Now watch this. The past, however delightful or disastrous, is behind us. Varnish it all you can. You still cannot bring it back. All we have is the future, the limitless opportunities before us, out of which we can construct new experiences and new relationships and new successes. But isn't that a great statement? It's better to construct the future than to varnish the past. Don't you know all kind of people, their whole life is staining the past. Got some more varnish? Going to make a little more gloss on yesterday. Number seven, the future is that time when you'll wish you had done what you aren't doing now. Oh my goodness. Let me explain that. Let me illustrate that for a moment. Here's what I'm saying. I know a lot of people who have wishes for tomorrow, dreams for tomorrow. What they don't understand is the viability and the assurance that they're going to arrive at that dream destination they have is not based on tomorrow. It's based on right now. In other words, the decisions you and I make today determine what we're going to be tomorrow. And so therefore, one of the reasons that I ensure my future, if you can ensure a future, and I say that in a very humble way, because you can't ensure your future. What is life? I mean, before the day's over, my life may be gone. But the best way, if I have God is good to me and He gives me life, the best way I ensure my future is by doing the right thing today. So when somebody says, you know, I'm going to be this tomorrow. Boy, I'm going to arrive to that position. I look at him and say, I don't want to talk about that. Can I talk to you about now? What are you doing today that ensures you of arriving in that position tomorrow? You see, that's the difference between a real dream and wishful thinking. If you aren't doing today something that will ensure your future tomorrow, you're not dreaming, you're wishful thinking. It's pie in the sky. It'll never happen to you. So understand the discipline that it takes in a dream. The discipline of a dream is very simple. Do today what you want to be tomorrow, and if you do it well enough, tomorrow you'll arrive. Very simple. Okay. Oh, this is so good. Number 3. The third momentum breaker is individual. And the momentum maker, write the word team. I learned a long time ago, if you want to break momentum, do it on your own. But if you want to make momentum, do it with someone else. Momentum is developed when everyone pulls together, and momentum is drained when everyone pulls apart. And the true measure of a leader is not getting people to work, and the true measure of a leader is not getting people to work hard. The true measure of a leader is getting people to work hard together. That's the key. There's a multiplication that comes in teamwork. And what I'm saying is, you get a team together, the person that breaks the momentum is the guy or the gal who decides to do it on their own. Call their own shots. Live unto their own selves. They're breakers instead of makers. Let me explain this. Great illustration on teamwork. A few weeks ago, I had decided that it was late on, what would have been late Thursday evening, and I was getting ready to go to Atlanta to speak for Promise Keepers. And probably about 9 o'clock that night, I decided that I wanted to do a lesson called Breakthrough Parenting. And it's a book by Focus on the Family called Breakthrough Parenting, which I have 10 breakthrough principles of parents with their children. And so I decided late that I wanted to do that message there. And it was 9:30 or 10, and so I didn't have the manuscript, the complete manuscript at my office at home. So I tried to call Charlie, and Charlie was out, and I knew it would be in his office. And so I called Linda, my assistant, and I said, Linda, I want the manuscript of Breakthrough Parenting. I said, if you can go find it, it'll be in Charlie's office somewhere, but if you can go find it for me and bring it to me, what I'll do is I'll take the manuscript on the plane, and while I'm traveling tomorrow, I'll develop the message. So when I arrive in Atlanta, I'll be ready to speak. So she said, fine. So she goes to the office, 10:30 now, 10:45, to find get the manuscript. Charlie's there. So she tells Charlie what she's going to do. And Charlie said, well, look. He said, man, he's going to have so much pressure on him there. He said, let me take the manuscript and let me develop the message for him. At least let me take it as far as I can. Charlie took that thing from 11 o'clock till 5:15 the next morning. Developed the outline for me. Wrote me a note and said, John, it's probably not 100% there, but it's 80%. And had it with the manuscript and said, you can now tweak it the next 20% to make it the Maxwell, put the cherry on the top thing. And I got up the next morning about 6 o'clock to go to the airport expecting a manuscript. I walked out there on that table. On my table in my office was a manuscript with a completed message, 10 or 12 pages outlined all out for me. I sat there in that chair, and the tears just flowed. I said, and these people around me wonder how in the world I can accomplish so much. If they had any clue, the people I have around me, the quality of people, the level of commitment that these people have, the heart of these people. Now, it never entered my mind that Charlie, I didn't think that we ever got the message to Charlie, period. I thought he was out for the evening. But you see, it's that kind of stuff. He didn't make my day, he made my month. Because what's Charlie? Charlie is a momentum maker. That's exactly what he is. And that's what I'm talking about teamwork. You've got to have those kind of people around you. You might want to say one more thing about that. You'll never get those kind of people around you unless you've been that kind of person yourself. You have got to always exceed people's expectations. If you only come up to expectations of people, you are average. To go above average, you always have to walk the second mile, turn the other cheek. As old Zig said, when you go the second mile, it's always easier anyway because there's less traffic there. One more quote, and then I'll go to the next one, because this lesson is loaded. The level The level of our celebration on the team is determined by the level of our participation. We celebrate to the level that we participate. That's why those who participate the most celebrate the most. Isn't that right? Those who sit on the bench and suck their thumb. Bill Russell, great quote in your lesson. Bill Russell, who is one of the great basketball players of all time, said, "The most important measure of how good a game I played was how much better I'd made my teammates play." Whoa. In other words, when Bill Russell got off the court, he didn't look at the individual stats. He didn't look how many points he scored. He didn't look at his rebound. He asked himself one question of integrity: were the guys out on the floor with me better players today because I was on the floor than if I would have not been out there playing? Number 4, momentum breaker. A momentum breaker, number 4, is a critical attitude. A momentum maker is a constructive attitude. In other words, are you tearing down or are you building up? Momentum is developed when the attitude of the people is helpful, and momentum is drained when the attitude of the people is hurtful. Chris Evert, one of the great tennis players of all time, said, "The thing that separates good players from great ones is mental attitude. It might only make a difference or 2, 3 points in the entire match, but how you play those key points often makes the difference between winning and losing. If the mind is strong, you can do almost anything that you want." Now, let's talk about it for a moment. As a leader, there have been many times I've had people have what I call critical attitudes. I wish there was I wish I could buy a can. Wouldn't it be great to go down to the store and buy a can of what I call sweet spirit spray? You know, and you just go up to those people that have that bad attitude and just, you know what I'm saying? You know, every time I go to the dentist, he says, "John, you got to do more dental flossing." And that's true. But can I tell you something? And by the way, have you ever seen a satisfied dentist? Well, you know what? It's just true we need a dental floss. I want to tell you something. Most people need the mental floss. And you need the mental floss when you share problems without solutions. I don't need any more of those people around me. It takes no IQ to see a problem. Get a life. You need mental floss when people around you feel smaller instead of bigger. You need mental floss when complaining is a way of life. You need mental floss when someone has to lose for you to win. And you need mental floss when you have to search for something good to say about people. Momentum breaker number 5. Are you ready? Here we go. Momentum breaker number 5 is tradition. And momentum maker is creativity. Momentum is developed when creativity is placed high in the organization's priority list, and momentum is drained when tradition is placed high in the organization's priority list. Some of you will remember General de Gaulle. He's dead now, but he was for a long time leader of France. He offered his opinion of why France did so poorly in World War II. He wrote, "The generals were wed to the strategies of yesterday." Tradition. Great story. True story. True story. The British Civil Service in 1803 asked for a man to stand on the cliffs of Dover with a spyglass, and he was instructed to ring a bell if he saw Napoleon coming. That was in 1803. The job was abolished finally in 1945. And in the British military, they were handling a field cannon which assigned 6 men to the cannon, but they could only figure a job for 5 men. So they studied in the history of manning the cannon and found out hundreds of years before the 6th man was to hold the horse. And they were still having the 6 men. Or the Tsar in Russia who walked across the Kremlin ground in 1915. And he's noticed the sentry that was every day just standing out there in the middle of the ground. Just posted out in the middle of the ground. And he said, "What's he doing out there anyway?" And no one knew. Every day the guy, he was assigned. And what happened is, now that's back in 1950. In 1776, when Catherine the Great was the Tsar of Russia, she was walking across the ground during the spring and she saw a flower. It was the first flower of the spring and she didn't want anybody to step on it. She said, "Post a sentry there so nobody will step on that flower." Now, what I'm talking about is momentum breakers or tradition. I'm telling you, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And all we have to do is we got to go back and look at the past and ask ourselves, are we still operating same old, same old? In your notes, not all corporate traditions are bad. Not every innovation is a winner. Executives who can tell the difference make it big. Here are some negatives and positives to watch out for, such as what I call, "That's how we've always done it." defense of a method or policy should always be challenged. It's not a reason for doing things, but it's an excuse for not changing them. Or traditions that produce satisfactory results over time have an added psychological advantage. They'll give us an extra sense of security, etc., etc. Or always test what works now, today. It may well be the method 5 or 10 years ago, or it may have to be replaced a year-old winner because today is a loser. Or learn to move fast. Anticipate change whenever you can. It'll give you a chance to test the old versus the new. Understand problems. Let me stop here for a moment on understanding problems. It's very important to always understand why a decision was made, even if it was made before you arrived. Here's the old saying I've always used is, never tear down the fence until you know why it was constructed. And the moment you understand that, you may want to tear it down. But you always, first of all, find out why it was built up. And then finally, question both tradition and innovation. The thoughtful questioner always will run ahead of the pack, okay? How to stay in the groove without making it a rut is a problem of every executive. Momentum breaker number 6. Momentum breaker is apathy. Momentum maker is passion. You see, momentum is developed when passion is at the center of your life, and momentum is drained when apathy is at the center of your life. I have come to believe that if you have courage, you will influence people based on your convictions. If you lack courage, you will influence people based on your comfort zone. Let me ask you a question. Are you influencing people based on your comfort zones, or are you influencing people based upon your convictions? One person with passion is greater than 99 who have no interest. They did a survey at Stanford and they found out that 90% of the students neither were for or opposed to apathy. Okay. Well, momentum breaker number 7. But that is a true one, isn't it? Apathy versus passion. Momentum breaker number 7, dishonesty. Momentum maker, character. I learned a long time ago, momentum is developed when the followers trust their leader, and momentum is drained when followers distrust their leader. Let me give you my favorite character quotes. I went through about 150 of them to give you these 10. Number 1, what you are determines what you see, and what you see determines what you do. If you follow that equation all the way out, what you do is a result of what you are. Always has been, always will be. Number 2, character is the sum total of our everyday choices. The choices that you have, the choices that I have. Character is the sum total of our everyday choices. Number 3, a person never discloses his own character so clearly as when he describes another person. Number 4, this is a Beecher quote. A person is rich according to what he is, not according to what he has. Number 5, some men succeed by what they know, some men succeed by what they do. A few succeed by what they are. Number 6, most of the significant things done in the world were done by persons who were either too busy or too sick. There are few ideal and leisurely settings for the disciplines of growth. Teddy Roosevelt said it another way, which is number 7. 90% of the work done in this country is done by people who don't feel well. Isn't that right? Aren't those great character quotes? Number 8, this is a Covey quote. You've heard this one, I'm sure. Private victories precede public victories. If you haven't had any private victories in your life, you aren't going to have any public ones. Number 9, cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Consensus asks the question, is it popular? Character asks the question, is it right? Number 10, ability may get you to the top, but it takes character to keep you there. And I believe that with all of my heart. I don't know if you've ever heard or read anything that Tony Campolo has ever done. He's a buddy of mine. We've done speaking together. And Tony Campolo tells the story of a little girl who had this, you know how these big cotton candy, how it's all big and fluffy out there and sticky. And a guy came up to this little girl and says, that is a huge cotton candy for such a little girl. He said, how can you eat all that? And she said, well, it's very easy, sir. She said, I'm really bigger on the inside than I am on the outside. Now I want to tell you something. You know what? Character is being bigger on the inside than the outside. It's the inside stuff. It's the inside stuff. And again, we talked about this in the last tape. I'm here to tell you that character is not made in crisis, it's revealed in crisis. And you show me a person that lacks character, they'll break momentum in your organization, just as a person who has character will make momentum. Number 8, the 8th momentum breaker in an organization is conformity. Doing what everybody else is doing because everybody else is doing it. Momentum makers, though, a momentum maker is change. You see, momentum is developed when change helps growth, and momentum is drained when conformity hinders growth. Kennedy said, conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth. Let me do a little Greek on you. The word nostalgia is derived from 2 Greek words. 1, to return home, and 2, a painful condition. That's the Greek for nostalgia. To return home and a painful condition. And if there has been no sense of loss and no resistance, there has been no change. Change is such a great subject that sometime in one of our lessons, I'll just do a whole subject on change. Because I want to tell you what, let me just say one thing about change before going. It is not the size of the change that causes organizations or people to fail. It's the inability to transition change correctly. And that's very key. It's change if change brings grief instead of growth, it's because the transition has not been right. We haven't transitioned it. The size of the change doesn't determine the size of the resistance. It's the transition that is the key. Number 9. Momentum breaker number 9 is ingratitude. And momentum maker is giving or gratitude or grace. You see, momentum is developed when a spirit of giving fills the organization, and it's drained when an ungrateful spirit fills the organization. Great Nigerian proverb. When I was in Nigeria, they taught me this one. When the right hand washes the left hand, the right hand becomes clean also. Carl Menninger, that great counselor, psychiatrist, mental health, emotional health guru, said the most important thing that described or showed or displayed emotional maturity was gratitude. He said, I could always tell when a person is emotionally mature by their gratefulness and by their sense of giving. Quoting your notes, Anne Frank said, how wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world. Don't need to wait a bit. Vince Lombardi, the great coach of the Green Bay Packers, said, after the cheers have died and the stadium is empty, after the headlines have been written, and after you are back in the quiet of your own room, and the Super Bowl ring has been placed on the dresser, and all the pomp and fanfare is all faded, and the enduring thing that is left is the dedication of doing with our lives the very best that we can make the world a better place in which to live. And the Chinese proverb just came from China. Those who drink the water must remember those who dug the well. And I just want to say this. If you're a person who doesn't honor people and show gratitude to people and thanksgiving to people, you're a very selfish person, and you need to really work on this attitude. Because I want to tell you what, there's no such thing as a self-made person. But the way I look at it, when you're born, you already owe mom for 9 months of room and board. Isn't that right? When you come out of mama's womb, you're already a debtor. Isn't that right? You see, there is no success without sacrifice. If you succeed and you didn't sacrifice, it's because somebody went before you and paid that price. And we need to always remember that. Show gratitude. Okay, number 10. Oh, man. Momentum breaker number 10. Indecision. Momentum maker, action. You see, momentum is developed by taking the risk and moving ahead even when there are significant obstacles that remain, and momentum is drained by succumbing to the paralysis of analysis. I've got it in your notes. Follow quickly. Creative abstract thinking is another ability that is often found in leaders. They're prone to get somewhere in their minds long before their followers do. In my view, this ability is mostly innate, but the capacity to do something with an idea is what distinguishes a leader from others. Listen carefully. Listen carefully, because at the end of this little story, I'm going to give you a nugget that you can take home with you. Louis L'Amour is one of the best-selling authors of all time. Nearly 230 million copies of his books are in print worldwide, and every one of his more than 100 books are still in print. When asked the key to his writing style, he responded. Now, listen to this. Start writing no matter what. The water does not flow until the faucet is turned on. That's a good word for life. Sometimes what we need to do is just do something. Call someone, reach out to someone, help someone. Sometimes just getting into action will release the power in our life. We ought to adopt, and this is in your notes, this as our motto of life: the water does not flow until the faucet is turned on. How many people I know go to the kitchen sink and wonder why the water doesn't flow? Turn that sucker on. Nothing is great of an idea until we act on it. So what I did is I put some of my favorite action quotes in here. Let me give you some action thoughts, such as, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Never met a great person that didn't start first. Number 2, the first 2 letters in the word goal. You can fill in the blank on that, aren't you? If you can, don't worry about the goal. If you can't fill in that blank without my assistance, we don't need to talk about goals. We got another subject, That's right, keep your daytime job. See me over the corner. There's a truck waiting for you outside the University Club, I guarantee you. Number 3, some people dream of worthy accomplishments while others stay awake and do them. Here's a great quote by John Hope. You must get involved to have impact. No one is impressed with the one lost record of a referee. As long as he coached, Bear Bryant had this sign hanging on his locker room: cause something to happen. Number 6, anybody who brags about what he's going to do tomorrow probably did the same thing yesterday. Is this not fun? This is life itself, isn't it? Number 7, a person is never what he ought to be until he is doing what he ought to be doing. I was reading an article recently that said why your competition doesn't need you to fail, only to hesitate. Listen to this. I'll just read it. It's just a lengthy paragraph. In early 1874, an inventor named Elisha Gray transmitted a few faint musical notes over a telegraph wire. And if he could send music, then what next? The human voice, a word, conversation. The New York Times reported predictions of a talking telegraph, and the public grew eager for it. Just 1 year later, Gray believed that he had the answer. Tin can-like voice chambers connected by a wire and a liquid that could turn vibrations into signals. But inexplicably, he didn't put his idea on paper for 2 months. After finally making a sketch, he waited, 4 more days before he went to the patent office. When he arrived, Mr. Gray was told that a mere 2 hours earlier, a schoolteacher named Alexander Graham Bell burst through the door with his own sketch. Of course, you know the rest of the story. I want to tell you something. I am really never impressed with idea people. I really am not. And anyone, again, that takes a long shower can get a good idea. What I'm really impressed is with a person who has the tenacity and discipline to take the idea and put it into action. I have learned, and let me just stop here long enough before I finish this lesson with you. I have learned to be an implementer. I am a major implementer. I want to tell you what, when I hear people talking and it's a good idea, while they're sitting over there discussing the whys, the hows, the whens, and the wheres, I'm over the corner with my legal pad, and I'm getting ready to put it in action. I want to tell you, before their caucus meeting is over, I will have that baby implemented. Now, the reason I know that is because I learned a long time ago, watch this, that there are a lot of smart people in the world, so I'm not always going to have the best ideas. So I decided to be smart and quick. And I learned a long time ago, it's the quick that gets you to the top, not the smart. There is nothing more common than geniuses on the shelf of life. But it's the person that takes the idea and does something with it. Okay, Dick Butler said these words. This is in your notes. Life isn't fair. It's not going to be fair. Stop sniveling and whining and go out and make it happen. In business, he said, I see too many people who expect the financial tooth fairy to come at night and remove that ugly dead tooth from under the pillow and substitute profitability just in the nick of time at the end of the fiscal year. Here's a Maxwell quote. The higher a person's influence, the greater the momentum will be broken or made. And when followers break momentum, it hurts. And when leaders do it, it sometimes is